Good afternoon and welcome to our Wellbeing Wednesday session. We're so happy to have alumni, students, faculty, staff, and parents join us today. These sessions are a continuation of the mindfulness meditation sessions held during the past year and are a collaboration between the Office of Alumni Engagement and the University Center for Student Wellbeing. As we all try to navigate back to normal from the pandemic, we may find that we need to take a moment to focus on our own personal well-being. Meditation and mindfulness practices can be powerful ways to help us manage our self-care and wellness. During this session, meditations will be taught and practiced together. This session will focus on developing foundations in wellness. I'm Audrey Tierney, the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement, and I am so pleased to be joined today by my colleagues and alumni, Dr. T.J. Smith and Amber Lazier of the Center for Student Wellbeing. I'm also happy to be joining you today from my office on campus. But before I introduce my colleagues, I have just a few notes in regards to the technical end of the session. Throughout the program, your microphones will be muted, but you are welcome to submit questions through the chat feature found on the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. TJ and Amber will answer questions at the end of the program as time permits. Now, a few words about my colleagues from the Center for Student Wellbeing in case this is your first time joining us. Dr. T.J. Smith is a licensed clinical psychologist and has been engaged with meditation for over a decade, most recently leading meditation groups for Duquesne University students. T.J. is currently the training director for Duquesne's counseling services. Amber Lazier has a background in exercise physiology and has taught yoga for 13 years and meditation for 11. Amber currently is the assistant director for recreation services and has a profound appreciation for the ecumenical approach to the mission of the university. Now I will turn our session over to Amber and TJ.
Thank you so much, Audrey. We've made it. It's been a year. Yes, Amber, it's amazing. I know we started this over a year ago, so we've come full circle, and it's been quite a year indeed. Feeling at one like it went really fast, and then another side of it felt like it went pretty slow. But here we are starting these summer sessions. So we were reflecting upon the year, and we thought we'd have these summer sessions be a little something special, where they'd serve as a summary of some of the stuff that we talked about over the year, but also a point to go forward, so you could take stuff with you, after these summer sessions to some real transitional sessions that would be able to provide you, something as you move forward. Today's session is on foundations, so we really wanted this one to lay the foundations. So I think if you were at the previous ones, there might be some stuff that you've heard, but there'll be some new stuff as well. But also, if you haven't joined us yet, this provides a wonderful foundation of practice. We'll be talking more about this later too, but we'll be coming to talk about next month a little about incorporation, and the month after that, continuation too. So from this foundation, we'll move to incorporation, which will be, really trying to put this practice into our everyday life, in continuation, how you can keep it up in your life, during the academic year. So we begin where we love to begin with is John Kabat-Zinn and his definition of mindfulness. We love this definition too because it gives us all a similar field and ground from which to proceed and engage in the different practices. And I think it's really a straightforward definition, but it also, each time we revisit it and look at it, something new shows up. Again, John Kabat-Zinn was the creator of mindfulness-based stress reduction. So he incorporated a lot of the principles of Eastern philosophy and meditation into pain management and pain relief and stress relief. So he really brought that over to the West in the 70s and has been a great researcher as well. So I'll read it through, and then I'm going to sort of go through each of the different elements too and sit with it and be mindful of the definition of mindfulness. So mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. So from this definition, the first part that is there is mindfulness is the awareness that arises. So mindfulness is a certain sort of awareness. It's an openness. It's a being conscious of. This sort of mindfulness is accessible, but sometimes it gets clouded over. So it isn't something that's necessarily given. We're always aware of this and that, but it's a certain type of awareness, a certain kind of awareness. And this kind of awareness is one that arises from paying attention. So it's attentive. It's paying attention to what's going on. It's a sort of concentration. So that's the mental aspect of it. We're concentrating on what's going on, and we're doing it on purpose. So that's the thing too. It's an intention. The first thing is the attention. The second part is the intention. That for the most part, we're not necessarily mindful. If we're going throughout a busy day, if we're going from here and there, we might be, jumping all over the place mentally or emotionally. So this is something with the deliberately practice, that we have to set that intention for attention. And what we're paying attention to is the present moment, whatever arises. We usually start by focusing on something like the breath, and then let our awareness open to any thought, feeling, physical sensation that comes up for us. In the here and now, what's it like to pay attention to the breath? What's it like to be in this body right now? What's it like to go outside in Pittsburgh? It's a beautiful sunny day. I mean, that's something unique. So what's it like? What's that experience like? And what we do too is we pay a certain type of attention, and we pay attention non-judgmentally. And what that means is a lot of times when we experience something, a thought, an emotion, and sensation, there's a secondary thought, emotion that comes up. And sometimes that can be critical, sometimes that can be judgmental. Oh, I shouldn't be feeling frustrated right now. Oh, I need to be feeling a little bit more better. So these are sort of more judgments, more sort of labeling of experience. So really we're trying to be mindful both of our experience that's arising and be mindful of any judgmentality comes out, and so to let that go as well, and really provide a sort of openness or neutrality, acceptance to whatever comes up, be it something beautiful, be it something that might be a little bit troubling, but just letting it arise in that moment.
I appreciate this definition every time we read it, because we pick different things out of it that mean something to us as we go throughout our week or even our day. And today, I think we're really focusing on the present moment and being present and what meditation does for us. But this final part of the non-judgmentally is such a big thing, because we all have preferences, and we place those preferences on our thoughts and on our actions and how we move forward. And especially with this pandemic, like we've all been through a lockdown of sorts. We were either working on the front lines or working from home. And I think people have expectations for how this past year should have gone. But it's that word should that, that's where the judgment comes in, so maybe things didn't go as we had planned, but, it's whenever we look at where we are versus everything that's happened, that's where that judgment tends to sneak in, especially when we're reflecting on this past year.
Yes, and this material takes a whole new meaning, I think, in this transitional phase as a nation. Yeah, you will be sort of grieving the past, frustrated the past, and moving into the sort of the future here too. And I could picture that too. A judgment, things should be better now. I should be able to make up for lost time. So I think this mindfulness will help us to be mindful during this transitional part of the nation and for ourselves too.
Yeah.
One nice place to sort of contrast mindfulness is mindlessness. So mindlessness is the experience of this scattered mind. So for the most part, there's a tendency, just because of the way we're set up, but also because of the way sort of society set us, to sort of try to do a lot in a short period of time. And I think it's really been encouraged by technology. I have my phone here, it's muted. But we have access to emails, the interweb, all of that so much so soon, so that to a certain extent we become scattered because there's so much to focus on. So mindlessness is that scattering of the mind. It's the mind jumping from the past to the future. It's the mind really, one moment feeling happy, at the next moment feeling uncontent, another moment maybe feeling a little bit stressed. It's that monkey mind, as the Buddhists would call it, jumping here and there. So that scatteredness really doesn't have a core. And when we feel scattered, then we don't really have a way to anchor ourselves and our different behavior. And a big part of this would be the autopilot. So for the most part, when we're going throughout the day, and again, I'm saying this non-judgmentally, more descriptively, for the most part, we just go into autopilot mode. It makes sense. When you say if you're driving to work, you get to work. The road itself was a little bit more automatic. You walk down to your building, that's a little automatic. You're not thinking about it. Maybe you're lost up in your head. You're doing what you do every day. Maybe in the car drive down too, you were not even paying attention to where you were going when you're going to work, and you find yourself 10 minutes later going, how the heck did I get here? That's autopilot. It's just when we're kind of totally in routine mode, not really intending to sort of pay attention to the moment, trying to get from point A to point B. Wellbeing Wednesday, it's midweek. Maybe we're trying to get from the week to the weekend, from the day to the evening. So it's this mind that's always on the move, but really never grounded, never really paying attention. So that's the way things are. And one of the side effects of that is this tendency towards reactivity. What that means is if we're really not grounded in ourselves and really not paying attention to what's going on, when something happens, we're more likely to react almost like a reflex. So if something happens, there's an email that comes over us, we're like, oh, we might hurry up and send an email back. I was driving yesterday and I swear everyone was cutting me off. Maybe because of the sunny weather in Pittsburgh, people are rip-roaring ready to go. But there was that tendency to, I could to want to react to that, to give a beep. Fortunately, yesterday I was more in a mindfulness mode and the sun was making me relax. So I didn't react as much. I more or less responded, which was kind of letting that sort of mild frustration come up, feeling the urge to beep the horn, and then refraining from it because it's a sunny day and I don't want to start anything just yet. That's the response too. So a lot of meditation is about inhabiting a certain sort of awareness. And in that awareness, there's a space between something that happens to us, let's say a trigger, a stressor, some event, like someone cutting us off, and our natural bodily response in the way we react to it, so that we don't necessarily have to have the knee-jerk, email that's sent back or the horn that's beeped. We have this space to sort of choose, and this is how I'm going to respond to the world, and also how I'm going to respond to myself. And in that moment, I did take care of myself. I'm like, hey, you're relaxing, you're having a good drive. Continue to have a good drive.
I appreciate, TJ, your example of traffic and how you still, when you're being responsive, acknowledge the fact that maybe I am feeling frustrated. Feeling frustrated is normal because, we have some sort of impediment to our goal or destination. So it's just acknowledging that frustration is there rather than acting upon it.
Yes.
I appreciate that because I think sometimes there's this misconceived notion that when you practice mindfulness, you'll just automatically feel and be calm in situations like that. And we're human. So sometimes those frustrations will arise. And it's just what we do with those that makes the difference between being reactive and responsive. So that was a great
Thanks.
Example.
Yeah, it's making me think of karma in a way too, not philosophically, but to the extent of my own personal karma, what I'm putting out there into the world. Because if I would have reacted, that the person might have then reacted to my reaction, and then I might have reacted to his reaction, and then we're stuck in a situation where sort of I've ruined his day, he's ruined my day. I'm telling him off on the way home in my head, and I'm stuck into this complex that occurred. So in that way, the responsiveness, helps to take care of myself and validate. Yeah, that was frustrating when somebody cut me off, but then it lets it be, and it doesn't pass a judgment on myself that I shouldn't have been frustrated. But then it also doesn't sort of lead to a story of frustration as well.
So with that acknowledgement of the frustration and then the decision to, abide or go along with it, would that be what people refer to as putting space around something?
Yeah, I would think so. That space would be that recognition, acknowledgement, and then the decision, that consciousness, bringing consciousness to that emotion, and then intentionally not reacting to what happened, not behaviorally sort of getting stuck on it, not sort of encouraging myself to think about it or to beep the horn. And that would be that space, would be the silence, just to let it arise. And as we've been talking about here, whatever rises then falls. So when we're letting that arise, we don't become too attached to whatever happened in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, in the yoga scene, if you've ever taken a yoga class, a lot of times your instructor will guide you to put some space around, blah, blah, blah. And, this really fleshes out what that actually is, just the phrase, we can hear the phrase, we can assign whatever meaning we want to it. But really, when people say, put some space around something, that's that responsive area, reactive area. So those are great definitions. Thank you.
Most definitely.
So on that note, we are going to talk about the beginner's mind briefly, and then just do a basic beginner's mind meditation to get us started with the rest of our presentation. So when we are being responsive instead of reactive, we're taking the situation as it is in the moment. When we are being present, we are focusing on the here and now, and we're being non-judgmental about it in the practice of mindfulness. So we're not really associating any of our past memories or past associations on whatever it is that's happening. So maybe, you have a restaurant that you go to several times within a year, and you have all of these expectations for what that restaurant's going to give you, or how the service will be. And so when you go into that restaurant, you kind of enter that autopilot sense that TJ was talking about. Okay, now's the time where they're going to take me to my table. Now's the time where they're going to bring me my menu, and I'm going to get these hot wings, or, whatever it is that you're going to get. And, so we're not really experiencing it as it is in that moment. We are experiencing it based upon our past judgments and our past experiences with that particular restaurant. So taking on the beginner's mind approach would be to enter that same restaurant as if you'd never been there before and you have no idea what to expect, or maybe to enter it as if you've never been to a restaurant before, what's next? And just entering it with a space of curiosity and openness, as opposed to a space of expectation and autopilot. So this next meditation is for us to just kind of get into that sense. So what I'd like for you to do is make sure that you are seated in a comfortable position, situated evenly on your left side and right side. So try to shift your weight side to side. Make sure you feel balanced left and right. Then we'll just gradually shift our weight forward and back. And find yourselves in that nice middle space. And now we're going to inhale, lift our spine up tall, lifting the crown of our head towards the ceiling. And as we exhale, drop our shoulders away from our ears. And you can clasp your hands together and place them in your lap, or place them however you feel most comfortable. And go ahead and close your eyes. Bring your tongue to the roof of your mouth, if that's comfortable. If not, find a different comfortable space. And just focus on your breath, inhaling and exhaling. Trying to keep the mind on the breath. Inhale, exhale. As we're in this space, I want you to listen to the sounds in the room around you. And try to listen to them as if you've never been there before and you're trying to figure out where you are. What do you hear? What does that sound tell you? Listen closely. Maybe there's some sort of underlying sound that you missed at first. And as you pay attention, you can hear it. Now we'll release our attention to the sounds around us and take a deep breath in. Exhale fully. And I want you to pay attention to how your body feels as you breathe. So you're going to inhale and exhale. And of course, we expect our inhale to feel like we're expanding in our chest, maybe lifting our shoulders, the air rushing through our nostrils. As we exhale, relaxation in the abdominals, the chest, the shoulders. As you breathe in, I want you to pay attention to the rest of your body. As you inhale, pay attention to your right elbow. And as you exhale, pay attention to your left knee. Maybe you don't feel your breath there. But it's a time to just focus somewhere that we're not expecting to focus. Breathe in and notice how your feet feel against the floor. And as you exhale, take note of how your hands feel, what they're touching. A few more deep breaths, paying attention to your body, noticing how it feels to inhale and exhale. How does your heart feel as you inhale and exhale? And now we'll release our focus on our feelings and move our focus to the sense in the space where we are. So as you inhale, focus on your breath. Focus on what the air smells like. Maybe it smells like nothing. Maybe you can detect something. And just bring your focus to that space. Take another deep breath here. And as you exhale, release your attachment or attention to the sense in the space around you. And bring your awareness to where you are as a whole in this space, in this moment. Breathing and sitting, relaxing. We're going to finish on focusing on something that you can see, feel, and hear. Could be anything. Something that you can see, feel, and hear. And if you want to add something extra, something that you can smell. And just visualize whatever it is that comes to mind. You can see, hear, feel, and maybe smell. Thinking on that. Being there in that space, experiencing that thing. And now we inhale, releasing our awareness and attention on that one object and returning back to the space where we are. As you exhale, you can open your eyes and return back to this space. Hope you enjoyed that beginner's mind meditation. It's really just a great practice that you can use. And that took about 5-6 minutes, but it's a great practice that we can use in our everyday life, especially if we're on vacation or somewhere we've never been before, or maybe somewhere that we go all the time, but we really want to take some time and appreciate it. To just focus on the space around us and getting rid of those judgment aspects and really being present and not relying on our past experiences to color how we experience today. So we are really getting into today the foundations of meditation. And, we wanted to focus on beginner's mind and the foundation aspect, because if you've been with us for the past year, we've been talking about all of these things over and over again. And sometimes you see that slide of mindfulness is the awareness that rises, as we pay attention and everything like that. And so it's like, oh, okay, I know what's coming. So on to the next thing, or however you want to go about it. And really, we want to approach this as if we've never approached it before. And there's so many different ways that we can practice. So we did a seated meditation briefly with a beginner's mind, but we could also use our mindfulness practice when we exercise. So making it movement based. Maybe you have a really hard time sitting still, but when you get on the treadmill, you can really just focus on something because your body's already moving. So maybe your meditation becomes running, or maybe it's lifting or yoga practice, something that is movement based, but where you can really bring the mind to that present space where we're not judgmental, we're here and now, and we're doing it on purpose. So those are two different ways to practice, seated versus movement based. Then we also have quiet versus active mind. So one of the Zen practices is where we just work on no mind, or emptying our thoughts and focusing on the breath and the breath alone. Whereas there are other practices in the Ashtanga practice, it's an active mind meditation where you might be given a koan and you need to consider all of the aspects of that koan, which is like a riddle. So if somebody says, if you only wear shoes, you experience the world in shoe leather. And you think on that and bring it to a better, or a meaning that means something to you and how you go about the rest of the day. And so the quiet versus active mind. And then we have other types of meditation too, or mindfulness. Walking, meditation is really great. You might see labyrinths on the ground. It looks like a maze, but there's really only one path. So there's no wrong path, and you just follow it. You focus on the sensation of walking and movement, where you are in the space, the sounds around you as you follow this path. Or maybe you're just walking to your car, and you use that as your walking meditation, where you focus on where you are and how it feels to walk. Another one is chanting or mantras. So there are many different mantras out there where you might just chant it over and over again in the back of your mind and try to go about your day as you're chanting this in the back of your mind. So you're kind of doing two things at once, or you can bring it into a group and chant together. And that becomes the fourth form of meditation, where you're focusing on the vocal quality and the words itself. And you're just, it's almost like a prayer. And then you have eating meditation as well. So where we have to eat every day. And so while you're eating, you're focusing on the texture and the flavor and the smell and the feel of the food as you eat. So those are some ways to practice.
I'm glad you brought up these different ways too, because I think we're presenting, a variety of different options in here for practice. And I think mindfulness is a part of most practices, but there's more explicit mindfulness meditation. But that's just one, type of meditation. I think it really depends on, one's temperament and what one finds too. So I think that's good to, give the various practices a try, and then one might kind of make a better match and fit for you, than another one, so that we don't become too exclusive of other techniques that might help.
You're right. And I think mindfulness is a very secular, basic practice that has no religious connotations. It's just the act of being mindful. We went over that, the definition earlier, whereas meditation has more of a connotation of maybe some sort of practice associated with it.
Yeah.
So we kind of use the terms interchangeably, but
yes,
many different ways to practice.
Yep. And I think it all leads to the same place over time. If it sparks a fire, that this is something what you pursue, that I think, whether you're doing mindfulness or chant mantra or something else, or that it leads to the same sort of, space of awareness.
And as a yoga instructor, I get sometimes frustrated with this idea that you have to do it exactly right. You have to have your arm right here and your fingers touching right here, and then cross it over, and, those are just suggested techniques. It's not about where your fingers and your arms are in space at all. And our bodies are made differently. it's really about finding that unity between movement and mind. And so the bottom line of this particular slide is that there's really no wrong way to practice. And if it feels right to you, it's a good way to start. And maybe there are other channels that work better for you. Some people just have a really hard time sitting still. And meditation brings about so many different benefits for us. One is clarity and problem solving. So TJ and I talked a little bit about creating space, taking that time to reflect on what you're feeling in the moment and then choose to act. When we are able to put that space between ourselves and whatever the problem is, we can kind of go about it with a little bit more clarity than if we just rush into it and we're acting in that reactive space. So that's one way in the workplace that if we know that we're coming up on a stressful situation, taking that time to just take a few breaths to yourself or to consider how you're feeling and what the situation is in a more non-judgmental way or a more objective way, then when you re-enter that issue, you have a better mind to solve the problem in a more effective way. On a physical level, blood pressure and heart rate reduction are both benefits of meditation. So when we focus on the exhale, when we focus on relaxing our muscles, relaxing our bodies, we are taking longer exhales than inhales, and that will reduce the muscle tension in our body because our exhales are relaxing. And it also is a vasodilator, so it allows for our blood vessels to open just a little bit more. Also, as we're focusing fully on breathing, we're allowing more oxygen into our bloodstream. So our muscles and our organs are getting the oxygen that they needed because we're not breathing shallowly. So all of those have positive effects on our blood pressure and heart rate. So by practicing meditation or mindfulness, we can see those benefits as well. And those are immediate benefits. So if you were to wear a blood pressure cuff or a heart rate monitor, as you go into your breathing meditation, you'll automatically see those numbers reduce. It is an immediate response, but if you do it over time, it can become a sustained response as well. Also, clarity and problem solving, blood pressure, we have stress management. So whenever we're feeling really stressed out, if we have the ability to step back and practice mindfulness, then we also have a better ability to manage our stressors, to consider them and not be reactive, and to turn it into some sort of a negative feedback loop. There are also studies that have proven that mindfulness is effective in weight management. So people are practicing mindful eating, or how often do we just snack when we're not paying attention? For me, at nighttime, oh, Netflix is on, I better go find a snack. I can't just watch Netflix. I need to Netflix and snack, which is just this mindful or mindless response to like, oh, I see the big letter N, so I'm going to go grab my chips or whatever. When we actually think about what we're doing as we're doing it, or when we're eating a meal and we're thinking about the textures and the flavors, we tend to get fuller faster, or we tend to remind ourselves, oh, hey, I'm not actually hungry right now. Why would you grab a snack? So that's been proven to help with weight management. It's also been proven to increase our engagement. So when we practice mindfulness before meetings with people, our parents practice mindfulness before playing with their children, they've all noted increased levels of engagement in those interactions. And finally, mindfulness can be helpful in memory enhancement. So not only memory enhancement, but memory retention. So if we're being more mindful and present whenever we're learning something, we have a better chance of retrieving those memories and keeping those memories. And I have the citations for all of these studies on the last slide if you have questions about them.
So glad you included these benefits too. I think mindfulness meditation is a commitment. We don't have to make it a huge commitment. We can start at 5 or 10 minutes, but sometimes it might be 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day. So it's nice to have in mind that this is going to be something in addition just to the experience that you have of meditation, that it can have a positive effect. And I always like to sort of think of these almost like positive side effects. So, there's so much stuff we do that has negative side effects. So this is like that, but it's a positive side effect. So it's nothing that we can necessarily, we're not going to achieve that, through, sheer will alone, but in doing the practice, this will be a positive side effect. So we can use that for our motivation and intention to keep the practice going.
And the interesting thing about this too is, we both work in kind of health and well-being, and we tend to focus on prescriptive things. So do this many times a day, or exercise this many times a week, doing cardio, or however we want to do it. And the interesting thing about a lot of these studies were there wasn't a prescribed amount of mindfulness practice. It was just, like for one study, it was practicing for 3 minutes before an engagement, or practicing, one of them was for a test, and the test was 90 seconds of breath-based meditation. And, so it's not a huge amount of time, just, trying to incorporate it wherever you can, or if you know that stressful situation's coming up, or if you know that you have a hard time with snacking or what have you, then, working it in when you think of it is fun.
Exactly. So important.
So on that same vein, we're talking about prescriptive meditation. And, I don't want to give anybody do this 30 minutes a day, every day, and don't miss it. But it's more a practice of working it into your everyday life, whether you have the time to sit in a nice space and you have the quiet to do that for 30 minutes, or maybe you don't. Maybe your day is really stressful and you're at your desk right now, and there's not really a lot of time that you can carve out for yourself. But I guarantee everybody has 30 seconds. So if you have 30 seconds and that's all you can give us for your mindfulness and meditation for the next month, because this is your homework till we see you again next month. If you only have 30 seconds every once in a while, try square breathing or focused breath. Focused breath is just where you focus on the inhale and focus on the exhale. How does it feel in your body? Or maybe you just say inhale and exhale as you breathe in and breathe out. Nothing more fancy about it, nothing special. Just take 30 seconds and focus on that breath. Square breathing is where we inhale, count to 4. Hold that inhale for 4 counts. Exhale, count to 4. Hold the exhale for 4 counts and repeat. So it's 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out, hold. Do that for 30 seconds, and that will drop your heart rate, drop your blood pressure in that moment. If you have 3 minutes, you could try 3-minute breathing space, which TJ and I have talked about. If you have questions about it, we can describe it after the class. Or you could try progressive muscle relaxation. So start at the top of the body, take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, relax the top of the head. Then you take a deep breath in, relax the shoulders. Take a deep breath in, relax the arms and hands. Next breath, relax the torso, and so on and so forth. And just try to practice relaxing the muscles, taking note if there's any tension, and just really working to use your exhales to relax your body. And that's 2 great 3-minute exercises. Maybe you have a wealth of time and you've got 5 to 10 minutes to yourself. There are a lot of different things that you can do. One is open monitor meditation. And TJ lightly touched on this when he was talking about being in traffic. And, you realize that you have frustration, but then you're choosing what to do with it. Open monitor meditation is where you just sit for a period of time and pay attention to your body. Pay attention to how you're feeling. Pay attention to where your thoughts are going. Maybe you're thinking about your to-do list and noticing that you're stressed out as you do it. Just taking that notice to say, oh, here I am looking at my to-do list, feeling a little bit stressed about it. Oh, now I'm thinking about my left shoe because it's more uncomfortable than I thought when I bought them, or, whatever you have going on. So you're just kind of checking yourself out, being in the here and now, not judging, just taking note of where your mind goes and how your body's feeling. You could also try a guided meditation, which you can find a lot of them online on YouTube or Headspace or the Calm app. There are a lot of apps out there, but you can also get on Spotify, and there are a lot of nice guided meditations on Spotify as well. And you also have the walking practice. So maybe you have 5 to 10 minutes. It's a nice day. You're wearing the right kind of shoes. Head outside, walk around the block, and just focus on the things that you're seeing in the neighborhood. Maybe you're focusing on how your body feels when you walk. Maybe you're tight in your right hip and your left knee feels a little loose or something. Take a quick inventory, because that's a really good way of injury prevention as well. If you start to notice little things, then you know to be on the lookout for them. So if you do go on a longer run or something like that, to stretch out better or something along those lines. So that's something that you could do with 5 to 10 minutes. And with 15 or more minutes, the options are limitless. You could do a long walk and do a walking meditation. You could do a longer guided meditation. You could do a seated breath work where you're just focusing on the inhale and exhale. You could do a Zen meditation on a koan and really consider that riddle or any of those types of things. So the options are limitless, and the ideal way to spend 15 minutes or more in meditation is the way that you like it most. So whatever you find sustainable, whatever you find that helps you find a sense of presence, that's the right form of meditation for you to get started with.
I'm thinking about this too, folks watching might be just getting started. And that's it. This is all about habit forming. And, I think a lot of the times, one thing that when I'm in a meditation period in my life, the meditation kind of just takes over itself. Like if I notice that if I hadn't done my evening meditation, which is I do more of a mantra one based, that, I feel like something's off. I'm like, I feel kind of unsettled right now. I'm like, I didn't do my meditation. So it's almost like originally we might set it up where we're giving ourselves the 5, 10, 15 minutes. However, once that takes off, it's something that it isn't as much structured as it is. You're like, I want to get that in. Not I better get that in more. I want to get that in. So it does have a nice self-fulfilling quality to it where it just reinforces itself when it starts as a habit. And then also if someone, had been doing it and hadn't been doing it for a while, that's part of the process too. I think it is something where there can be a moment or a period where you just stop practicing, and that's always okay too. I think anytime you have practice or have that sort of heartfelt calling to want to do meditation or mindfulness, that you can always go right back to it at any point.
Yeah, we're always practicing, right? And when our mind wanders, we gently bring it back. Sometimes the mind wanders for 5 seconds, other times the mind wanders for 5 days.
Yes, I like it.
Just in a perpetual state of bringing it back to the present moment. And so we've never jumped off the wagon. There is no wagon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like exercise where you might say like, I've been doing this lifting routine for every day, but then I got an injury and I had to take those off. With mindfulness practice, it's just, we're always just working our way back to the present moment. And sometimes the mind wanders. And I'd like to just add to all of this, I had a period of time 2 years ago where I was on the road for 4 hours, basically every day, 2 hours out, 2 hours back. And so I didn't have a lot of time to myself to really just focus on meditation or mindfulness, like in a more seated traditional setting. And my time in the car became that time for me. So I would listen to maybe a guided meditation, one that wouldn't put me to sleep, obviously, because I'm driving a car on a highway, but something that would make me think about the present moment or think about a different topic. Or I would take a koan and consider that as I'm driving. After the route becomes easy, then we're kind of on that autopilot with obviously paying attention. But so you might find yourself in one of those situations where life creeps up on you and requires a lot out of you, and you lost free time that you might have once had. There are ways to work mindfulness back into that. And it might be just being mindful of driving or being mindful of whatever it is that you're doing. So that's the beauty of it. You can work it in however you wish.
All right, so we'll finish off with a practice as well, a breath-based practice. So as the sign says, let's begin. Find a relaxed and comfortable position. Keep your back upright, but not too tight. Hands resting wherever they are comfortable. Close your eyes. You can start to notice your body from the inside. Notice the shape of your body, the weight, and the touch. And let yourself relax and become curious about your body. Seated here. The sensations of your body. The touch. The connection with the floor. The chair. Relax any areas of tightness or tension. Just breathe, soften, and now begin to tune into your breath. In your body. Feeling the natural flow of breath. Don't need to do anything to your breath. Not long, not short, just natural. And notice where you feel your breath in your body. It might be in your abdomen, in your chest or throat, or in your nostrils. See if you can feel the sensations of breath, one breath at a time. When one breath ends, the next breath begins. Now, as you do this, you might notice that your mind may start to wander. You may start thinking about other things. If this happens, this is not a problem. It's very natural. Just notice that your mind had wandered. And you can say thinking or wandering in your head softly. And then gently redirect your attention right back to the breathing. From time to time, getting lost in thought and returning to our breath. Seeing if you can be really kind to yourself in the process. Noticing your body. Once again, your body as a whole. seated here, letting yourself relax even more deeply. And now, offer yourself some appreciation for doing this practice today, whatever that means to you. Finding a sense of ease and well-being for yourself and for this evening and afternoon and into this day and for the rest of this week. And when you're ready, feel free to open up your eyes.
Well, thanks, TJ. That was wonderful. If I don't know if anyone has any questions here. I don't see anything in the chat at the moment. But thank you both for such a wonderful session today. I know these have helped me so much through the past year, and I really hope that they helped you today as well. And I just saw a question come in from Chris, and yes, the recording will be available. For those that attended, we'll be sending that out via email within a couple of days once we get it closed captioned. So watch your email for that. And we just actually had a question come in from Mary about traffic, and this is a good one. If you are in the traffic situation and don't react, but are still angry afterward, how do you let it go?
I'll field that question because driving sometimes stresses me out, to be quite honest, very carefully. Yeah, the one way, it's a process, I can say that. I think driving and stress is where, I use the practice of mindfulness and I'm always learning. But for myself, it would be one, just that recognizing, I'm angry right now. And wherever that anger is, for me, it might be, tenser breath, a little bit more in the stomach there. And when you recognize it, just the second part would be that acceptance. Okay, yep, I'm angry. The third part that I'd extend to too, and this is a little bit more than meditation, I'm bringing a little bit of psychology into it too, would be that, really inquiring and seeing what the anger might need from you. That there's that angry part of that angry feeling oftentimes needs something to be offered. That if you're not sort of expressing the anger, maybe beeping or yelling at the person, that you might be able to offer yourself something. And a lot of times it's dependent upon what the moment is. But I think with anger, sometimes it is that validation. Like, yeah, it's okay to be angry. Yeah, it's all right. That person did cut me off, and I'm upset at that person. And it's all right to be angry, and that was scary. A lot of times, I think underneath anger is fear. To sort of look at all the different emotions and parts connected, and to provide that sense of self-compassion to them. And that self-compassion is that validation, like, yeah, that was scary. And then also that perspective taking, which is this a moment and this motion arises, but I know this will fall. And I think that is the key to this sort of letting it go, is that kind of perspective that this will sort of arise. And as an emotion, it'll fall after I sort of give it what it needs at that moment.
And from a bhakti yogi perspective, it's always a great question because we're going to get angry,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to be the traffic. We're going to be the ones causing the traffic for whatever reason, we're lost or however. And from the bhakti perspective, it is this acceptance that everything and everyone is as they are, and we must accept that. So what is it within ourselves that is getting so worked up about this traffic incident or this particular car, or just this whole thing? So what is it inside of me that is reacting to all of this? Just like TJ said, like asking myself what I need from it. And in that tradition, we use those types of situations as grist for the mill to really understand better how we deal with those things and understand where we come from with our approach to traffic or those stressors, because there are all these little things that might set us off. And it's a great opportunity to step back and say, like, why do I get so angry that they put those little plastic things when I buy a pack of socks. Like I get really mad about that. And it's like, that's just what it is. What is it about me that needs to like get out? Great question.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. But thank you all again for attending today's Wellness Wednesday. We will be continuing these sessions throughout the summer, so be sure to watch for a follow-up email that will include the link to register for our next session on June 16th. And for links for all of our upcoming virtual events. If you have any questions for TJ or Amber that you didn't ask today, if there's anything specific you'd like to cover in the future, their email addresses will also be included in the email. So thanks again, TJ and Amber. Until next time, stay safe, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And as always, go Dukes.